the forum side also to see so many of these efforts that are focusing on our region, on the Asia Pacific, on ASEAN and Indonesia populate the promenade. I know that while we don't aim to take over the promenade with the beautiful culture, with the richness of food, music, as well as all of the exciting investment opportunities and insights, that this place, as well as the other pavilions, will be a key highlight for participants here in Davos. I would like to introduce a stellar cast of panelists who will be joining me and discussing this critical issue. I'm told that the Minister for Digital of Indonesia will also join at a later point, but we will get started with the panel. We have Boloreden Batsengel, who's the founder and chief executive officer of AI Academy Asia. We also have, thank you, please, Joanne Manrique, who's the president of the Center for Global Health and Development and co-chair of the Women's Health and Economic Empowerment Network. And last but not least, we have Parudi Saludin, secretary of the Ministry of Investment and Downstream Industries. So, let me quickly set the stage for this discussion. We are standing at a crossroads when it comes to not just the technological developments, but also the huge transitions that we see on the energy side, on the climate, as well as all of the disruptions that we are seeing on society. So we can't but really sort of wonder what will happen to both our own jobs and for those of us who are parents, to our children's jobs when they grow up, and also society at large. What will happen to the overall workforce that is needed? How do we actually provision so that no one gets left behind and we can really reap the opportunities that come with some of these disruptions? So to help tackle these questions, I will turn to our distinguished panelists. Let me first start with you, Bolor. You run your own company, but also beforehand, you've worked in government of Mongolia as a vice minister. When you look at AI and all of the disruptions, do you see it, as the title suggests, more as a crisis or an opportunity, especially from the sense of preparing our workforce?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be able to speak at Indonesia House. I have one of my best friends is from Indonesia, so it feels very close to my heart. And I am very biased on that sense. I love technology. And as you know, one of the projects we did in Mongolia is called e-Mongolia, where we digitalized 1,500 government services. So imagine Mongolia has a very big landscape, but we have only 3.5 million people. I come from a nomadic family. I still own 300 sheep and horses and stuff like that. So if you come to Mongolia, barbecue's on me. But we firsthand witnessed that technology can help cultural differences. It can help developing countries and emerging markets through e-Mongolia project, which, by the way, nobody believed when we started. So now, once you land in Mongolia, there is no way living without e-Mongolia. You run your errands, you register your company, you order your passport, driving license, everything through e-Mongolia. So it happened in such a short amount of time. Just for 2 years, it disrupted how government was run, how government services were delivered. So now with AI, there is a fierce competition between, obviously, the US and China and other stakeholders in the AI industry. But I want to believe, and in that sense, I'm very biased, that the winner of this AI competition should be developing countries and emerging markets to use AI to fill the skill gaps to use AI to improve their efficiencies, to use AI to solve their problems.
Thank you so much, Balor. I hope that we can also be influenced by your optimism as well. I mean, throughout the week, we'll have many discussions that touch on AI, whether the negative consequences that we need to prepare for or the upside that we need to really race towards. But definitely, I think AI has a lot of potential as long as we fully understand and also fully embrace the changes that are to come. I want to turn to you, Joanne. I mean, we're talking not just about the technological disruptions. You've worked very closely with both Indonesia, the region, but also from a global scale. What are some of the other changes that you think will significantly impact the workforce? And from your standpoint, how should we actually prepare, including, of course, AI, but also other aspects that are of change?
Thank you. So I'm going to put on my hat as co-chairing the Women's Health and Empowerment Network, which is a network of philanthropists. So sometimes when we're looking at issues of health, Indonesia is really leading on issues of AI and public health records, AI for CT scans, AI in tuberculosis. I actually see it as an opportunity because if we can concentrate AI on areas of language, scanning, screening, then we can actually reserve the health workforce for strategy and implementation of how we design financial sustainability in the health sector. So I think one of the things we're seeing is also greater uptake. For example, in cervical cancer, there's greater opportunities for more women to be screened if we have the potential to use AI for this. One of the things you can't use AI, of course, is in relationships, right? And how you broker the financial sustainability of a health solution. So let's use AI for the day-to-day tasks that are needed. And then when we require building these financial sustainability models for women's health, that's really where you cannot have an AI model doing financial diplomacy, doing the financial structuring. I mean, I think a lot of the beauty of what Donatara is doing is really focusing on the key areas of implementation. And a lot of that strategy is not something that any AI can do, but the areas of transparency, counting the numbers, counting even World Bank implementation loans is all of what AI can do.
Thank you so much, Joanne. I want to turn to you, Parudi. As for now, the only government representative, you have the delightful task of bearing that responsibility, really preparing the population against all of these changes. Can you share with us from both the ministry as well as the government-wide efforts, what is Indonesia doing to prepare for the workforce, the education systems against some of these disruptions that are coming?
Thank you. I want to give you some picture about the workforce in Indonesia. Right now, Indonesia is in the bonus demographic era. So we have to manage it better for escaping from the middle income trap, such as like in Japan, in Singapore or something. They already escaped from the middle income trap. So, and then from beginning from the 2016, we're starting to make a reform in education and training in Indonesia. So we already established the national team to reform all the education and training, especially in vocational training. So we start with the changing all the curricula, and then we establish the lifelong learning system, and also we established the pre-employment card program. Is already done with around more than 100 million applicants. So right now, we still need around 9 million digital talent for the next 15 years. So it's opportunity to to do business in Indonesia, especially for education and training for the digital talent.
Thank you so much. I know I put Parudi on the spot, for sharing what the government is actually doing, but this is one of the critical areas where you can only really advance through public-private collaboration. So I want to turn to all of my panelists to share with you if you have any examples or suggestions for how the private sector and the public sector can work towards to address this issue. I know that in the past, both in the region as well as globally, for a lot of these panel settings, government would share what they're doing. Private sector would also have ideas and innovations of its own, but really Davos, the whole spirit of it is to try and reach across sectors and try to forge collaboration. So I want to ask if you have any suggestions or best case examples that you can actually share with the rest of us. Maybe we'll start with you, Balor.
Sure. So I've obviously had the pleasure of working for the private sector, but also now running my company in private sector. And I think from the dot-com bubble to this AI disruption, one problem we've had over the years is the efficient way of working together between many stakeholders, including governments, big tech companies, INGOs, including the UN and other international organizations, but also civil service organizations. So when we talk about fake news or disinformation, misinformation on Facebook or any other social media platforms, it took us so many years and so many thousands, 100,000s of victims to get the ball rolling on that. So one of the concerns I have regarding ethical use of AI is how do we make sure that we don't repeat this mistake we've done over the social media period and the crypto and all these technological disruptions, because AI is advancing faster than anything we've ever seen. But also, as much as it is bringing advantages, it is bringing risks as well. So especially one of the reasons that we need to educate our kids on AI, especially how AI algorithm is running, how it works, is to make them understand it is a technology, it is a tool, but not the decision maker of your life. So from the very basic level of education up to the higher level of decision making, we need to have very good, efficient way of working together to avoid doing the same mistakes.
Thank you. If I can ask the same question to you, Joanne, and also if I may add on another question. One is, of course, from your vantage point, what have been some of the best practices or suggestions that you would have for public-private collaboration on this issue? The other one may be related, but given your work, one of the, of course, concerns, and from the forum side, when we launched the Future of Jobs report, one theme that continues to emerge is the vulnerable population, the women, the children, those who are disadvantaged, who will be lagging unless there's specific efforts or attention paid towards how they can also adapt and transition. So if you could, bundle those two. I know it's a difficult task, sorry for that, but I know that you'll do a fantastic job. If you could share with us some of your insights there.
Yeah. I mean, one of the greatest examples we've seen of public-private collaboration has to do in the health prevention area. So we tend to be very reactive. 97% of healthcare spending around the world is because you're going to a hospital or you're reacting to something, versus 3% is preventive. So one of the things that's being done is a lot of private companies are feeding in genetic information. They're feeding in information related to diabetes, women's cancer care. All of that information that's fed into these systems will help us diagnose earlier so that we're not spending more money on healthcare. I think I heard a statistic that said that France has gone up by 40% in its healthcare spending over the past 3 years. So if private sector is collaborating by feeding in early variables of genetic diagnosis, that is something that we're seeing a lot of public and private collaboration. We're seeing it with the WHO, we're seeing it with the different health ministries, where they're using this data to really inform their citizens as to when they should get a screening, whether it be for cardio, whether it be for diabetic care, but to come in earlier so that the spend to the healthcare system is not as much. That being said, your second question, vulnerable populations. We're seeing this a lot in maternal health. So at the last mile, as many people know, if a woman needs a C-section, she can't get from very last mile area into a hospital that can perform the C-section. So early AI and technology is allowing across the world, we're seeing it in Kenya, we're seeing it in other areas, where there's screenings that are being done that can send the women earlier to the hospital, or that they can be on standby. And we're not losing as many women due to needing, emergency C-sections. So in terms of the last mile. Children, I think in the vaccination, but I think for women, we're really seeing the most impact in maternal health and also breast and cervical cancer screening. So I also lead a One Epic facility that focuses on cervical cancer screening, and we're seeing earlier detection to the last mile with AI.
Thank you so much. Parudi, I know that in the previous question, you had to sort of share what the government is doing, but just building on that, I'll give you an opportunity, given the wealth of business leaders who are also in this room, what would be, from your perspective, things that you would want more for the private sector to step up in order to support and work together with the government along its efforts to really transform the education, the training, so that Indonesia and the region as a whole is better adapted towards these changes?
Okay, thank you. I think the public-private partnership is a must for making a better ecosystem in education and training. For example, like in Indonesia, we engage all the private sectors to not only to give some training and education, offers the training and education, but also to changing the curricula as well as the industry standard to meet the industry standard with that curricula. And the government itself is preparing the incentive for the private sectors. For example, like in Indonesia, we have tax deductible for up to 200% for the private sectors that offers the vocational training and education. So something like that, I think, it's to collaborate, and we inviting all the private sectors to make a better vocational and training and education in Indonesia.
Thank you so much. We'll, of course, towards the end of the session, also have an opportunity to hear from the audience to direct their questions towards the panel so that it can be more of an interactive session. But I want to leave the panel with one last question. We've heard about policy schemes, efforts, system changes that need to take place in order for our workforce to be more adapted. But one thing that we haven't really touched on is the mindset. What would be your advice in terms of a mindset change that we need to all embrace so that we are better adapted towards whether it's technology, climate, sustainability, some of the changes that we face as we go along? For this one, I'll maybe start with you, Joanne, if it's okay.
I think mindset is, I think as you mentioned earlier, the early education on what AI can be used for and what it shouldn't be used for, right? And so I was talking to someone from OpenAI, and last week they launched Health OpenAI, and I was asking, well, who's feeding the variables, for this type of health diagnosis? And they said they had a conglomeration of universities, which is great. One thing we saw early on in AI when it was tested for primary healthcare was that it wasn't diagnosing correctly. So for example, if a person had TB, it was diagnosing that people had TB not based on their chest x-rays, but the AI technology went to the fact that the patient had a wristband. So patients that were sicker with TB were more likely to get hospitalized. So the AI was using the wrong variable. So I think in mindset, especially in health and the economy, is what is the AI actually measuring? And I think there needs to be education on that versus just accepting it blankly.
Bulor, your advice on mindset changes that we need to have?
I think at this momentum of AI advancement, we as humans still have the chance to define where AI is going and how we're going to use AI to shape our societies and our countries. And related to that, while humans still have the control over the technology, which is not going to take a long time to have technology take over, I think it's very important to talk about mindset, but also define where we want AI to be going in the next 20, 50 years. So again, from very early stage of a child to the point where the child grows up and starts working, it will have AI embedded into every step of the way he takes. And the mindset we should have is that we will use technology rather than being used by the technology. So I would say that's the mindset we need to have.
Thank you so much. While we were having this exciting discussion, of course, through the Davos traffic, the minister has arrived. So I have the pleasure of handing over the last word before we go into perhaps questions and answers or networking. On this discussion, we've covered, what are some of the emerging changes that are going to significantly impact our workforce, our society, even our own jobs. What are some of the policy measures, public-private partnerships that are needed to be better adapted towards and equipped towards these changes? And last but not least, also, we touched on the mindset changes that we need to also embrace. But with that, I wanted to hand over to Her Excellency Minister Mutia Hafid, who's the Minister of Digital from Indonesia. We're delighted to have her both in Davos as well as for this exciting session. But if I could please turn to you to share your thoughts and remarks with all of us here.
Can I just actually listen to the discussion first?
Okay, all right. I mean, that is very, I think, heartwarming for us because we have set the theme for this annual meeting as a spirit of dialogue. And of course, for dialogue, you first need to listen. And the minister is exercising leadership in wanting to first listen from all of us. So I think that's a great place that we start with. And for Indonesians in the room, I think you're very lucky to have a leader who's much more willing to listen than to speak. So why don't we then turn over to the audience? I know that a lot of you also have questions, also points that you want to make in all of your, let's say, leadership responsibilities. What would be some of the questions that you want to kind of start a conversation around this critical topic of skills and workforce? Do I see any hands in the audience? Please don't be shy. I mean, Davos, you actually don't have to be shy. Yes, I have a question there.
Good morning, selamat pagi. My name is Hesti Aryani. I am from Jens Technology. We're based in Zurich. We are an IT company. We're developing a software in job matching technology based on semantic AI, fully compliant CCPA. And just 2 months ago, we have just established our PT PMA in Jakarta, Indonesia. This is one of my mission as Indonesian to open the opportunity for the labor market with the Indonesian fellows. I would like to ask regarding to the public-private partnership. As we all know that in Indonesia, mostly is more like physical infrastructure of the public-private partnership in road construction, toll road, highway, bridge, and so on. in the sector of technology, it is still very premature, I would say. In the past 4 years, I am bridging the Swiss company to participate actively in the Indonesian business operations, as we see that this is a very promising market in Southeast Asia, one of the leading. I learned from the two cases in Mongolia, especially. I'm very interested. I would like to ask to Pak Rudi, especially, how is Indonesia, in addition to giving the, incentives, 200% of the tax deductible for PT-PMA, for example. Especially, I learned that in the special economic zones like the Nongsa Digital Park and then Singasari in East Java, we are exploring that it is very promising partnership for the Swiss company like us. But as we are working in the job matching technology, bridging education and labor market, the skill gaps, mismatching, it's a huge issue. How the Ministry of Investment, Ministry of Digital Technology, Information Technology, and to build this ecosystem through PPP, partnering with the private sector like us as a Swiss company. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question. Pak Rudi, would you like to?
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Bu Hesti. So, Indonesia just released some regulation regarding the PPP, not only for the hard infrastructure, but also for the social infrastructures, like in health sectors, education sectors, and so on. So we can talk and discuss with you after this. But regarding the incentive that you asked before, I think there's so many incentive, especially if you're doing your business in special economic zones or under the strategic priority program or something. So there's so many incentive that we can offer to the investors.
Would you like to, please?
Yes, you mentioned education. And so one of the things that we're seeing specifically, in Indonesia around the $4 billion health systems loan is really the need for health workforce, right? So I think in AI, there are things that can be done, but you also can't train cardiovascular surgeons, right? But I think that's where the technology in terms of doing repetition of surgeries could get there. And also we're seeing it, as I mentioned earlier, in cervical cancer screening, but I think it's marrying at what level you divorce the AI from the higher level education. And that goes also to mindset. And we're seeing a lot in the types of blended financing structures that we're doing with different governments around the world, is that governments are more and more using AI when it doesn't meet the actual requirement for health systems, right? And so who's in charge of that? Who does those regulations? I mean, I think, Minister Budi has been great at this, and really as a banker wears both hats, the health, but you don't have a lot of ministers around the world that can do that, right? Separate the health from the actual implementation. And so I think, with your company, you need to see when the education parts from the higher level of education.
Thank you for the question, and I think you've successfully convinced the minister to also join the panel, to also feel that. And what better question to have from a Indonesian-run Swiss company around some of these issues. Please, if I could turn to you, Minister, to answer this question.
Yes, there was a question on how the government is preparing for the digital talents. And by the way, good morning, everybody. Sorry for the late coming, and welcome to Indonesian Pavilion. For the workforce in the future, the government see that there are two main criteria that needed to be fulfilled, which is the those who understand digital technicalities, but at the same time, the need for those who have the capabilities of human-centric becomes more and more valuable. So we're trying to combine both and try to get the best of both. Here in the Ministry of Digital Communications, we have digital talents programs, mostly working with platforms and digital companies globally. We believe that to produce more and more good digital talents who are ready for the future needs, we have to be collaborative. We have to work hand in hand to get the global standards to upskill our young generation. This is a big challenge for Indonesia, as we are a country of 280 million people with 60% young generations. This can be very potential, but at the same time, if we do not do upskilling fast enough and collaboratively with many sites, many parts of the world, then it can be also become a social pressure. So we cautiously try to develop those digital talents by governments, and also we have, of course, we work closely with local governments as well, but at the same time working with multinational companies to really uplift our digital talents to global standards. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, Parudi has briefly mentioned before about the demographic dividend that Indonesia has, and I think it's becoming around the world a scarcer and scarcer advantage, as we see many other countries that are aging and also being unable to really embrace the changes. So there, I think definitely Indonesia has an asset that hopefully will be fully leveraged to embrace these changes. I'm going to turn just to see if there's one more question before we invite Her Excellency the Minister to share her final remarks. Yes, please.
Hi, good morning everyone. My name is Marco and I have a question for Bolor. Bolor, I'm the Chief Business Officer of Nongsa Digital Park, which is a special economic zone in Indonesia where we also are involved in vocational training for digital talent. I run the cooperation with Apple. We have an Apple Developer Academy and also a Games Institute. Of course, we're looking at AI, so probably we should have a coffee after this. And my question is, based on your experience, how important are aspects such as literacy and critical thinking when you put together curriculums for students for AI? Thanks.
Thank you. I will respond by just sharing one story. So 5 years ago, I started a project, an NGO called Girls Code, and we trained girls from nomadic families who never even stepped into the city for 3 months. It's a boot camp. And now we have about 350 graduates. We have girls who came from nomadic youth to MIT with 100% scholarship through coding and through getting digital skills. So this is an example of what happens when you give them access to digital education, digital literacy, and now AI literacy. So I'm very much convinced that, especially one of the things that Doreen from ITU says is that we have 2.6 billion people who are offline. And now with the AI advancement, it's going faster than anything we've seen. So AI is becoming enabler for inequality. But on the other hand, AI could be used as a tool to fill the education gap and gender gap and income gap, especially around developing countries and emerging markets. So not only in Mongolia, but in Uzbekistan, in Azerbaijan, some of the countries that we operate, we do AI for Women projects. We've seen amazing, amazing success stories in such short amount of time. And which is why it's very important that we give access to AI education to those who are being left out, especially targeting those people.
Thank you. And with those inspiring stories, I guess it's very hard for you not to be optimistic about the impact of technology. So I completely understand. Is there another question, perhaps last one before we go to the minister?
Thank you very much for this very important discussion. My name is Martin, representing the hospitality industry here in Switzerland, a hospitality school in Lucerne. And I wonder myself if how can you bring in these digital skills or AI with hospitality? Because we all know that the World Economic Forum, WTTC, created a report that we will have 90 million more jobs in the coming years. So I think how do we merge or bring in these skills in the hospitality industry? And you, of course, know better than I do that tourism is growing in Indonesia, of course. And I would just like to know how can we bring that together?
I'm not sure who wants to take this question. There's no one in particular from the hospitality industry, but I'm sure that it's something that's all kind of on our minds, especially as we arrive here in Davos.
I can take it from a health tourism perspective because we're seeing a lot of health tourism to different countries, and the biggest use of AI is language translation there, right? So I think that is one of the primary areas. How you merge it, I think it's difficult because I think jobs like that are always going to be needed versus, for example, we let go 10 research assistants because ChatGPT can do their job. But we hired 10 financial sustainability officers who are structuring different blended financing platforms. So hospitality, as I said, strategic financial know-how is things that you're never going to see probably go away with AI, or hopefully, but I think other jobs will get replaced quickly, and researchers are one of them.
If I can just add one more thing from the forum side, but please don't quote me on this because this is not my field, but I was having a conversation with another executive from the tourism industry who's actually said, look, everything has a silver lining, and in a way, COVID, the disruptions that came with it also made the overall industry a little bit more resilient towards unexpected changes, but also changes that we know are going to come. And I hope that it's for that reason, not just sort of all disruptions and loss of jobs, but actually the overall industry can really adapt and innovate with these technological changes that are to come. And with that, we've had a fantastic discussion that covered so many other areas, but we're really turning to you, Minister, to give us the last word and your thoughts as well as requests, call for partnership in this very important topic. Yes. So over to you.
Thank you, Joe. I'm sure you did a great job in putting ideas from the speakers to the audience. I'm actually not very sure where to start because I believe that many things have been covered already. But still, I have to say that, again, what is happening with the world today, the automation, artificial intelligence, digital platforms, work being reshaped by all of this, making people uneasy, and not only to the workers. For the workers, it felt perhaps uncertain. But to governments, it can be very daunting as well. So again, the reports, if we look at the reports of WEF in jobs report in 2025, it says that 92 million jobs will be replaced, but at the same time, 170 billion jobs will be created. So we have to be very optimistic in approaching that, and that's also the optimism that government of Indonesia is holding to, because we have a net increase in about 78 million jobs created. And the real challenges, I agree with the speakers before, is the growing gap between the people and the skills that the future actually needs. I think Joanne mentioned that earlier. But we believe, again, that the future of work has not been predetermined by technology alone. It will be shaped by choices that we make today, perhaps in this very room, the policy that we make in investment, and of course in partnership. Indonesia chooses to see this decade not as job crisis, but rather jobs opportunity, an opportunity to equip people with skills to adapt, to innovate, and to contribute meaningfully in a changing world. We also recognize that this is not a journey that one country can take alone. So again, we have to be collaborative and hand in hand. International collaboration, global partnership, shared learning will be essential to closing gaps and aligning talent with global standards. And Indonesia stands ready to learn, to contribute, and to work together. And let us ensure that when future generations look at us look at the time today. They will not look at this time as a time of job loss, but a time that when human potential was being expanded deliberately, inclusively and at scale. So that's our job today, to make that really happen in the future. Thank you. I think that will be the closing for me for this very beautiful, I think this is the first sessions of Indonesian Pavilion. So again, on behalf of the government of Indonesia, I thank you for being part of this very first session, and hopefully more sessions will be coming by today and tomorrow, interesting ones. So again, keep coming to our little house here and have more discussions with you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure to be joined by a group of optimists, but also those who are so rich in their experience and insights when we face this very critical topic. I want to thank all of the panelists, including, of course, the minister. She's in a way done part of the job for me in advertising that there will be many more discussions. But also one thing I wanted to highlight is Indonesia Night is happening tomorrow. You are all cordially invited, if I could say, and I hope that with the minister, with all of the Indonesian friends that we have here in Davos, but also many of the friends that you will make, we hope that Indonesia's impact, positive impact in the world, will really leave a mark for this year's annual meeting. And with that, I think I will conclude my task as a moderator by allowing a little bit of time for networking, asking questions, and really mingling and forging friendships. So thank you very much, and please join me in thanking my excellent panelists. Thank you.